Hey guys, Professor G here. A quick tutorial here sharing my screen for the spending plan template that you have downloaded and how to use it. So if you look over here, the first page is called Income Spending Plan. That's your income. That means like what comes in, the flow of money, and the spending plan. So we're going to step away from the dirty word of budget, which is essentially what this is, and really begin to reframe the concept into a spending plan. Why? Because when you follow this, when you actually take a moment to look at your money, to know what's coming in and what's going out, you get to be more intentional with your plan. So this tutorial is specifically to help you use this worksheet that you've downloaded from my site or somewhere else as a gift, perhaps, and to follow along. It's super simple. I've done all the work for you. It's a template you can plug in. If you want to download and save a template of it, you can mess it up and you can come back to the beginning and do it again. So here's how this works. I have a column specifically for you to just name what it is. So if you have, I start with the things everybody gets a little freaked out about, right? We can do this simply. Put the details. So what is your rent or mortgage, right? I usually put the name of a company there. So if you're with Chase Bank, then you can put that. You're going to put the payment amount here. So I'm going to go through this and we're going to pretend, let's say you have a Chase mortgage. Okay, so let's say that payment for you is $1,600 a month. All right, so what's going to happen is you're going to populate the name and then you're going to put the payment in. Now what you notice is all across here, you automatically are going to populate the rest of the columns. So your monthly budget is there. And then if something changes, you only need to change it here in the payments column and it's going to update all the other months. Now, if something only changes for one specific month, let's say in April, you happen to know your taxes are due and so it goes up to $2,900. This is Midwest prices, right? So then you can put that on there. I like to put a separate task line for taxes, but you get the idea. So if something changes one specific month, you can just change it in that month and you can see here the total household expenses. On the month that you change it, it changes, but it doesn't mess with the other months. So you can keep going through. This is the stuff that what I like to do is separate what we're spending just to survive, to get through life. And then there are other things like debt payments. These are things that we won't have forever, right? And I include the mortgage or rent in the household expenses because typically you're going to have something to pay, whether that is rent, mortgage, or taxes associated with. And so then you can go down through your utilities. So maybe you want to talk about electricity, and that costs you $120 a month. You put it there, the bills are going to, so all of these are going to populate. So you can just list. You can also at any point click and insert a column and create more space for yourself if you have more expenses than this for your household. So this is going to keep a running total for you at the bottom. If you have, I have a special place here for unusual spending. Perhaps this is something that happens only in this case, March. So you can go in and say, hey, we're spending $3,500 in March to go on vacation. You can label that. You can also insert, if you're familiar with Excel, play with however much you know. You can do a comment and say vacation, right? So you can plan for these things that you want in your life so that, okay, yes. And so that those can be there with notes for yourself. Now, if you go on down through, next you're going to see debt payment. So if you have any student loans, let's say you have $200 a month in student loans, again, that's going to populate. What I want you to pay attention to by separating this, you understand the difference in, okay, these are the expenses it's going to take to run my typical life with or without debt. This is the extra part that I'm paying now because of using debt in the past. And there's I have a whole book on eliminating debt and understanding what got you there and moving past it. I welcome you to look at it. But what you need right here is just to get clear on what those pieces are for you that are ongoing debts. In other words, you borrowed from yourself in the past and you're still paying for it now. So maybe you have some kind of line of credit. Maybe that could be an equity line. It could be just a business line that you've gotten. Something, especially if you're commingling your business and personal funds, I highly, highly, highly recommend you don't but that's another conversation for another day. So let's say you have a $57 payment on that because you use that occasionally for some improvements. Maybe you have a $350 car payment. I like to label these. So like, again, let's say you have, I'm just going to go with Chase. Stick with the same bank. That way I'm not giving lots of advertising to lots of different banks, but whoever your lender is. So then you're going to put your car payment in there. What's really cool, let's say that you happen to know that in April that's going to be paid off. You can go over here and see what the impact of that is. You go to April and say, okay, well, I'm not going to have this anymore after April. And I can put those zeros in and I can see the impact it has on my budget as a whole. So this is the column for debt. The next one is this is for any of you who have a business or you're operating a business, especially if you're looking for tax deductions and how do I get the tax benefit of having a business. I like to separate that from your personal expenses, but include it in your monthly, because most of us, if you're a small business owner like me, I'm still going to pay the web hosting whether the business has income or not. So I'm going to go ahead and include that in my personal list. So anything that you would cover out of your personal expenses goes here. If your business is operating separately from your personal, then just take this whole column out, and you can actually do that as well. You can just leave it as zeros, or you can do a massive delete. So you'll notice I'm going to keep a couple of things here. Let's say you're paying $20 for web hosting and $20 for an email managing system. Maybe you're paying, I don't know, probably if it's personal, let's say $35 a month for a bookkeeper. And so you fill in those expenses. Maybe you buy 10 hours of support a month, and so you do that at $20 an hour. Whatever the stuff is, you go ahead and include that. Notice how it also has those expenses. Now we get here to the savings and contribution. Savings is what I recommend. Now you don't have to touch this if you like the way I've set it up. So I set it up so automatically whatever income you earn, you'll save 10%. So you'll see this populate when we get to the income column. The same thing with contribution. Now you can use that to contribute to your future. You can contribute to your favorite charity. You can contribute to a religious affiliation or some spiritual connection. It could just be money that you set aside to randomly bless strangers. Anything you want. You can contribute to your own opportunity fund. What is the money you're saving up for when a big opportunity comes? If only you had the money. Why not start saving for those moments now? I know you've had them. So these columns are automatically set at 10%. What I want to show you here is if you click, you can actually change this to 8%. So I'm going to leave this one at 8%, simply because that's going to show you the difference between the savings and the contribution. So I'll leave the contribution at 10 so you see where it comes from. So then you're going to say, okay, well, what is my income? For me, I teach, right? Teaching at university, we'll just leave it generic, universities there. So let's say I make on a monthly basis $2,000 teaching as an adjunct for a university. That's something that I would put there, put it teaching at that university. In my case, maybe I teach at university too, right? And so maybe that's more like $800 a month because it's not as involved. So look for the ways you earn income. For me, I might put speaking and say, well, how much am I earning on average on a month in a month speaking, right? So you just pick the numbers that are true for you and label them. Notice how we start to get some income build up here. So we have our total income. I like to get that total right on top. So see the 4,000? That's just the combination of your 2, your 8, and your 12. You'll notice now we have income less expenses. Now, we've been able to see that if this was my whole income and these were my whole expenses, right? If this was everything, and I'm not going to fill up everything here, you can do that on your own. But once everything is done, how do I know if I'm doing okay? Well, I look at my income less expenses, and if this is positive, I got it for the month. But let's say we see a month coming up where it's going to be negative. That's where the spending plan part comes into place. You can say, hey, I was going to have some surplus here. I can use that to plan and be ready for that $3,100 deficit I'm going to have, it looks like in this case, in the month of March. So I can plan for that in advance rather than getting to that month and then using debt to keep myself floating. So this is why I call it a spending plan. You can look at where you're going to have bigger expenses instead of judging those. You work hard, you deserve to do whatever you want, but you deserve even more to be able to do what you want because you've been intentional with your money and you work hard for it. You do what you do. You give your gifts to the world. You stay engaged, and that income comes. So you deserve to be able to use it how you want, rather than getting to March and saying, "Oh, sorry guys, we can't go on vacation. We don't have the money." You've planned for it. And so then you'll notice at the bottom, what I've done is a running total. So we were in a surplus. January, February, March, we were in surplus because of our vacation in March. Notice how we went to deficit. So you can plan for that and know, well, maybe I can save some money over here somewhere else. Maybe I can get a little gig and earn some extra money. Or you can just plan over time throughout the year, which is what a lot of people will do without so much intention. They'll just try to save money so that they have it for vacation or whatever that is. It could be an investment in the next program to take you to a higher level in your marketing or in your program or in your being, right? Personal development, whatever you want, you get to put in here, but only if you've planned. So this sheet will automatically populate for you. You can change the percentages. Let's go back to this part. Notice when I put 8%, it's saving 8% of the total income. If I put 10%, it's saving 10% of that income. If I add income, so let's say I added $350 extra a month somehow in doing some odd jobs. Notice how that $350 goes into the total income, and then your savings and your contribution increases. So you're not going to try to save all the money at once. You can set it as a percentage. And if you've never saved, if you've never been a saver, instead of trying to go this big, and this isn't this is what, over almost $800 a month, maybe that's too much for you right away. So you say, you know what I can do here is, I'm not real comfortable with 8. I can do 4, and maybe the contribution part, maybe I'm just going to do 1% at first. And it's a much smaller amount, but it gives you something that you can be intentional. Now you'll notice that the default for this is set at 10%. So you'll change this accordingly. You can also make it populate automatically by simply dragging and doing that. So this is going to equal whatever the 10% of, so you can just change your percentages there. So this is the spending plan piece of this. There's another sheet. The next sheet is all about debt reduction. So if you want to, for instance, let's say you take that Chase, remember that car we talked about? Maybe you look at your car. Now here's what I want you to see. Down here, we have just schedules. This is schedules of payments that are going to happen. And they're estimates because your bank may calculate it slightly differently, but it's going to be mostly on point. So once I finish that and I type in Chase car, notice how that's going to populate right here. So I can have a running track of that bill just by entering it here. You don't have to do anything at the bottom but look. So I put in Chase car. Maybe I say I have a $16,000 balance on that. Maybe my interest rate is 7%, and maybe my payment, I think I said, is $350, right? So I can put that data in. Here's what you're going to be able to quickly do. You can see that this is an amortization schedule. If you ever look for that word, it's just a schedule of your payments and how they're going to pay your debt over time. So you can scroll down, and when it becomes red, that means you've paid it off. So anything else would be savings. So if you wanted to take that money and start investing it at 7% after, this is how fast it would grow. Doesn't hurt to have that information. But what you're concerned with here is, it looks like in March of 2025, that's when you'll finally be done with paying that card. So let's say you have a little extra money. Let's say you're doing a debt reduction plan. Like okay, I'm going to reduce my debt. First of all, I would say you would use this column and pay off in the order of interest rate, so the highest interest rate first. However, you might have a couple of small pieces that you want to get rid of. You can totally do that first. So maybe you wanted to pay something else off because it's going to pay off in 6 months. Do that. That gives you momentum. That's called the snowball effect, by the way, when you start to look for that momentum of how to roll each payment. And so let's say that I'm going to give you an example here. And so you already know how to use this. You can easily see, right? And I could take a quick, let's say in December, you were going to get a bonus of $1,000 one time. You can just put that all to the car payment. Remember, it was March of 2025. Now watch what happens. When I just apply that $1,000 now in December, it's going to pay it off 1, 2, 3 months sooner, right? So you can see the impact of one extra payment. How much momentum does that give you in terms of being paid off on that debt sooner? So then you can decide. So we're going to undo that because I don't want to add extra payments yet. I want you to see what happens. So then let's say we do also my mortgage, and let's say you have a balance of 250,000. I'm just going to make up some numbers here. Let's say you're paying 5% on that. And then I would go back, I think I said 1,600. So I would go back to my payments list. What's my actual payment I'm making? So then you'll see that also is both color coded and populated here. As soon as I wrote it in, now we can go, and this is gonna be a while, right? So you can guess that one I would scroll and scroll. But you can see, well, how much sooner am I paying this off if I pay that extra payment? If I put that money here, you can start to be strategic. If you do have extra money and your goal is to reduce debt quickly, you can start to put that there. So let's do one more. Let's say you have a credit card. You have a balance of about $3,500, 1,000, and the rate on that is 18%. Let's say that your payment is 200. Well, you can imagine, if I just go over to the credit card one now, at a payment of $200, it looks like, okay, finally, we're going to pay that off in about 2 years, right? So you can then say, well, what happens if I put more money there? And let's say I want to take that $1,000 bonus and put it here. Then you can see the impact of it, how it shortens that time. The higher the interest rate, the more effective your money is going to be to pay toward that debt. So then I'm going to say, you know what? I want to pay them off like this. I want to pay the credit card first. The amount to pay that in full is $3,500. That's just letting me know what it takes. The budget income freed, well, that's going to free me of $200 a month. That's just the amount every month that I now have back in my pocket because I paid that off. So the second thing I'm going to pay off, let's say in this case would be the car. If this is the only debt you have, you might do it in this order. You might have student loans. You might have a whole page full of debts. That's okay. Whatever you have, you have. This is information. It's not a shaming tool. So now we say, okay, well, what's the amount to pay off that car? It looks like that's $16,000. And so this is another piece, right? When you line it up, you're thinking about, well, what's the interest rate? Usually go in that order. And also, is there something, let's say it had a 9% rate, but it's only $1,200 and I could pay it off quickly? Maybe I do that. And so when we look at this one, the $350 payment is all you need to put there. And now it's telling you, hey, every month you have an extra $550 in your budget just because you started applying a little extra pressure and paying off that particular thing. So when you get a chunk of money, it's common for people to want to pay it all, like you spread it out and pay a lot of things down a little bit further. You don't want to do that. You really want to concentrate all that extra money onto one payment, typically the one with the highest interest rate, to help get you some momentum toward getting that debt paid. Because as you can see, as soon as you pay off that credit card, you've got $200 a month extra in your pocket. Now you could go, and this is where this particular sheet comes into play. So we go back to the car. Remember the car? And we say, okay, well, when I take that $1,000, I'm going to pay off my, did I do the credit card? Yeah, over here. So I'm going to pay off my credit card. Looks like here. So now what I can do is this month, I can come over here to the car payment. We're on line 38. So I come over here to the car payment and I change from here on over. Now I can put 550, right? So then 550 and 550 and 550, and I can start to do that. And you'll notice these numbers on the right, how they start to shrink. That's because your balance is shrinking a lot faster. And you could do this, and you don't have to keep typing it. I'm doing that for effect. You could actually just drag it like this and say, okay, from the rest of this life of the loan, I'm going to pay 550. And remember, we were at March of 20, 25 originally, and now we are at February of 2024. So by just focusing and putting all that that extra content, paying off the extra money, paying off the credit card, and then applying it to the car, I shoved a year of my life back into my pocket. Now that's a year of $550, right? So now I have $550. What can I do next? Then I target the next debt. Or now I can maybe start saving. Now that I got the high interest rate debts, maybe I don't want to pay my mortgage fast because I'm getting other benefits for having it. So I can start investing. And that's when the opportunity fund can get funded a little faster. Now I can increase my savings amount, right? So this is an effective tool just to help you get intentional with what you're doing with your money and to bring everything back to center, to take the judgment out, to put the numbers to it, and to invite yourself to just take control. So a little bit of coaching, but mostly just helping you use the sheet. If you're looking for more on this, reach out to us. We have programs to help. I have tons of debt reduction. I have a book on it. But really what I want you to do is take this free resource that I'm providing for you and use it. Just play with it, use it, make it your own, make changes as you wish. Keep a backup template just in case you mess it all up. That's what I do for myself because I mess it up all the time. And let this be a guide to help you get where you really want to go with your money. I hope this helps, guys. Thanks so much. Enjoy and keep on being you.